So a few months ago I made a YouTube video talking about my top 10 games of the last generation. I was pretty happy with that list, to be fair. You know, at the bottom of the list you had fantastic games such as Doom, and at the top of the list you had, for example, my top 3 games: Mario Odyssey, Octopath Traveler and Horizon Zero Dawn. I released that video a month or so before the PS5 came out, and I was like, you know what, I'm stepping away from this generation. Perfectly happy with this list. Unless an amazing game comes out that changes it, I'm happy to leave this list the way it is. And no game came out after that to change that list, but there's a game that came out before it that I can't believe I didn't play for so long, that literally walked in, shot that list in the face and said, right, change it over now. Basically, take that list, go back and watch that video if you haven't seen it already. Take that list, take every single game, including Horizon Zero Dawn, which was number 1, shove them all back a spot. Because there is one game I slept on, and I don't know why I slept on it, because the first game is one of my favourite games of all time, and I don't know, I couldn't afford it when it first came out, and then I completely didn't get around to getting it until last year, and I really regret not doing that, because the game is absolutely fantastic. I'm talking, of course, about Red Dead Redemption 2.
Feels like things have changed. The whole world's changed. They don't want folk like us no more. We're being hunted.
We are smarter than them. Only the feeblest of men take jobs in the government.
I hope so.
Trust Dutch, Mr. Morgan. You have to.
Red Dead Redemption is easily one of my favourite games of all time. Western genre hadn't really been explored in the depth and detail that Red Dead Redemption had when it first came out in 2010. And the character of John Marston was just absolutely likeable. He was this last of the outlaws as the world was starting to change. The game was set in 1914, and John Marston was this sort of outlaw clinging to the Wild West as America was changing. He's basically contacted by the government, who have kidnapped his family and have said, you need to take out the other members of your old gang and we'll let you have your family back. I mean, I'm assuming that's how law and justice actually worked back then. And as John Marston, you've got to hunt down these characters: Dutch van der Linde, Javier Escuela and Bill Williamson. And the game does a good job of making you care about these characters, but you don't really understand John's history with them. It worked to the game's credit, to be fair. You didn't feel like you had this sense of needing to know John's history with them. They give you enough information to know why John cares about having to do this, but it's not really something that's explored too much. At least I didn't get a sense of exactly what John's history was with these people. I just knew that at one point John was under Dutch van der Linde's wing. And they announced that Red Dead Redemption 2 would be a prequel taking place in 1899, going over the actual history of the van der Linde gang. And so you can actually see these relationships form. And Rockstar know how to write single player. I'm sorry, I know that Rockstar's not everybody's favourite company, but I love Rockstar's single player games. Every GTA game, every Red Dead Redemption game, the single player games are second to none. I'm sorry, they really are. Every single character in this game is so well written. So many of them are just easily in my top favourite characters in any video game of all time. I mean, Dutch van der Linde is this personification of power going to your head. The game starts off in the aftermath of the Blackwater Massacre, and you're not really shown or told much about it. You just know that they were trying to rob a boat and the feds got tipped off and they had to fight their way out of there, and members of their own gang died, innocent civilians died, members of the law enforcement died. It was a bloodbath, and the gang's hiding out in the mountains, and John's near death. You obviously know he's not going to die because obviously he's the protagonist of the second game, but you play as Arthur Morgan, who is easily one of the best characters I've ever played as in any game. He is so deep as a character. He starts off the game this obedient servant of Dutch, always trusting Dutch's decisions, and as the game goes on he starts to doubt Dutch as well. He sees himself more at the start of the game as kind of like this mindless brute who just does what Dutch says. But you realise as the game goes on, Arthur's got a lot of intelligence, and he starts to realise that himself as the game goes on, when he starts to become his own man. The whole point of the game, every character goes through it, is personal character development, every personal growth, and you start to see how that can change a group dynamic, for the better or for the worse, mostly for the worst. The gang are hiding out in a frozen mountain when the game starts off, but they realise they have to move on because the Pinkertons are closing in. They're trying to catch them because Dutch is very much wanted after the Blackwater Massacre, and you have to keep moving from settlement to settlement, near town after town, to try and grift as much money as you can. Dutch has got this plan to move abroad, to move to Tahiti, which is kind of like his main thing. He wants to move to Tahiti. He realises as the game goes on, he's got no intention of going to Tahiti. He just wants to make as much money as possible and keep control of his gang, and the more he tries to grip control of that gang, the more he loses control. And it's such a fantastic written story. The single player alone will set you back 40-50 hours. That's just the main story, and the cinematics are done so well that they really encapsulate. It's the closest I've ever seen a game come to being a cinematic experience without it deterring from the actual gameplay itself. The gameplay itself doesn't take a hit, but the game is so well written, it just feels like you're playing this interactive story. The graphics are absolutely fantastic, and I could sit there and watch this story play out all day. I really could. And the twists and turns in the story, I don't want to give too much away because the devil's in the details, and the story is fantastic, and it's such an experience to play through. You've got all sorts of different themes in there. Robbery is obviously a big one. They rob several trains. They rob several different banks. Characters that you really care about get killed. And every single character is just so likable. Apart from Micah Bell, seriously, can get fucked. He's such an arsehole, but he's supposed to be. He's the main reason why Dutch starts to move so far away from where he started. Dutch kind of started off as this kind of philanthropist. He felt that he was doing crimes, but for the greater good. He was kind of this Robin Hood-like character, and he really believed that in robbing from the rich, you are doing the world a favour, and you should always help those who need it. You should never rob from people who don't deserve it, and things like that. And let's just say those morals start to go out the window.
So right! They are good at smelling filth, huh? So filth has got to be disposed of! Your friends, the Pinkertons, gonna come and rescue you! You repulsive little maggot! Call them now! You call them!
Jesus. Part of your philosophy books cover feeding a fella. The goddamn alligator, Dutch.
Part that covers weakness.
And he starts to manipulate his own gang, and it's all because Micah Bell is sowing those seeds. He wants to be Dutch's right-hand man, and probably eventually wants to be the leader of the gang, and he's written to be such an unlikable character that it's so satisfying when you see him finally get killed.
Oh.
You shot me.
I guess Dutch shoots me if I shoot Micah because he wants to be the one to kill Micah. God, the effects on the deaths in this game.
Micah's death is so satisfying after everything he put you through as Arthur and also as John. Hosea is a very likable character. He just wants to get out. He wants to move to Tahiti. He wants to get away from everything. And he's always having clashes with Dutch. Dutch just wants to do one more robbery. And that conflict is kind of like the ongoing theme. Eventually Dutch gets Hosea killed because of these decisions. And it's really, really gut-wrenching when he does get killed, because Hosea was this very likable, relatable character. You know, you're in a situation like that, you're going to want to get out of there. Most normal people would, I assume. But Dutch sees it as an opportunity to become this, I guess, rich, famous outlaw. Our favourite characters have to be Charles Smith and also Sadie Adler as well. You meet Sadie right at the start of the game when he's still in the mountains. Dutch, Micah and Arthur go out to try and find supplies, and they end up coming across a house that's been ransacked by raiders, and inside you see Sadie, who's just become a widower because her husband's been killed, and you have to save her from this gang, and you take her into your own gang for protection, and she's a badass. He also taps into the war with the Native Americans as well over their land, and obviously Dutch trying to manipulate that situation for himself. As rains fall, the chief of the town tries to make things better. His son, Eagle Flies, is definitely not making things better. His son wants to go to war with the Americans, and Rains Fall just wants to try and talk it out. He wants to try and do it diplomatically, and Charles is obviously caught up in that because he's part of his ancestry is with the Native Americans. Goes into that sort of dynamic as well, which is very interesting. The gameplay itself is very, very good. It keeps the Deadeye mechanic from the first game, which slows down time so you can get multiple shots off at once, which is good for when you're being attacked by multiple people. But even when you're shooting without Deadeye, it still feels pretty satisfying to do. It's pretty realistic, pretty quick to actually carry off these shots, which is absolutely great. You're playing a Western, it's a shooter. You're going to want the shooting mechanics to actually feel good, so they do. Riding the horse can be a bit frustrating because it's very quick. If you haven't got a high bonding level with your horses, their stamina goes down pretty fast. And so you don't really want to use a horse that you haven't got high bonding with, but you have to use a horse that you don't have high bonding with to get to that point as well, especially when you got multiple horses as well. It can get a bit frustrating, but once you've got that bonding level, it's less of an issue. So it's still pretty fun to ride the horses around as well. The map is quite big, but it never feels like a chore to travel from one section of the map to the other, because there's always a route that you can take that will drastically cut down the time. Like, I kind of feel like in Red Dead 1, it sometimes felt like a chore traveling around, but in Red Dead 2, it never felt like that. In true Rockstar fashion as well, there's just these character-driven stories that aren't really full of action, and they're not difficult at all. They're just there to serve the purpose of character development, and these are an absolute joy to play through.
Where are you at? You know where my friend is?
I've no idea.
Come here. I lost my friend. You see where he went?
Best have someone
Leave the kid alone, you goddamn animals.
Who do you think you're talking to?
Nobody. I'm talking to nobody.
What did you say?
What?
I said, what did you say?
Get lost, buddy.
Shut up, mister. Yeah, shut your mouth, mister.
Lenny! You bastard! Lenny!
How many of you had, pal?
Lenny, where are you hiding now? Lenny, my boy!
I'm Clyde. You got the wrong fella.
May have a rule and a saw and a board and I'll cut it. Climb up a ladder with a hammer and a nail and I'll nail it. Well, we worked so hard to build a little house together. In the snow or the rain or the ice cold wind, whenever. No matter any weather, we're together.
These missions aren't there to be difficult, they're not there to further the story in any way, they're just there for these character bonding moments, and Rockstar do these things so very well. GTA 5 had a couple of these as well, but these are the most memorable things in these sorts of games, and these missions are going to stick with me the most probably out of most of the story. Because they're just so much fun. It's just fun to see these characters and see what they're like and see what makes them tick. And it's essentially just an interactive cutscene. And I can't go through this impressions video without talking about them even a little bit, because they are easily some of my favourite aspects of this game. Also, in true Rockstar fashion as well, I have to talk about the Easter eggs. Apparently there's a ghost in one of the towns as well, which I haven't come across myself yet, but I am trying to find her. And also the one that took me quite a while, but I did eventually find it. There is a ghost train in the state of Lemoyne, and you can only see it between certain hours. I think it's 2 and 4 a.m. And it took me a few nights to actually find it, but the ghost train was an absolute joy to come across. You can only come across it once. Once you've seen it once, that's it. You have to start a new save file to see it again. But it's just for like a one-off thing. It's really fun to see. just a little Easter egg that Rockstar like to throw in. They do it all the time, and it doesn't disappoint in this game at all. The voice cast as well do an absolutely fantastic job of bringing these characters to life. Or Roger Clark does a fantastic job bringing Arthur to life. He's gritty, he's very he sounds like an everyman from the time, and that's exactly who Arthur is. He's just this very simple, take no nonsense kind of guy, and Roger Clark does a fantastic job of bringing Arthur to life. Benjamin Byron Davis as well, his way of bringing that character to the screen is absolutely brilliant. It's very sort of authoritarian, but also he's got that tint of insanity in the voice as well, which grows ever more present as the game goes on. He does a fantastic job of bringing Dutch to life as well, and almost everyone in the voice cast. I'm not going to go through them all, but every single person in the voice cast does an absolutely there's not one character in this game that is poorly written, that is poorly performed, that is poorly, the graphics wise, that looks bad. Every single character is relatable. You care about them. Every single member of the Van der Linde gang is a very, very fleshed out, important character. Even the smaller characters like Miss Grimshaw as well. You feel like you know these characters. You feel like you're on this journey with them. And I think that's what the main strength of this game is that you really feel like you, yourself, playing the game, are a member of the Van der Linde gang. You care about this gang. You care about the characters in it. And I think that's the biggest strength of Red Dead Redemption 2. The soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal as well. You can't have a Western without having the music of the Wild West, and they do a great job of bringing that to you, whether that's the instrumentals in the backgrounds of the missions that really make it feel like it's a Western film, the sort of thing you would see in these different films from bygone eras, or the characters sitting around a campfire and singing some song that they would have been singing back in 1899. These kind of folksy songs that they would be singing to keep their spirits up as they're trying to evade the law. Or whether it's really silly things such as building a house, or any of the very sort of cinematic country songs that are in the background. For example, when you return from that Cuban island, Arthur's racing towards the camp, and there's this very sort of powerful song in the background, and you don't have to do much. You just have to hold the X button to have the horse continue to race forward. It's still technically part of the mission, but it's the screen goes into full screen. Like, you get the black bars at the top and the bottom, and you get the cinematic camera, this powerful song in the background, and you really feel like Arthur's on a mission to try and put things right. And the music just really brings the entire thing together. The entire game just works so well. Every single thing, from the scripting to the voice acting to the soundtrack to the way the game looks and feels, every single thing just comes together, and it's just so perfectly melds into this world that just is an absolute treat to spend time in.
This is not a task we take lightly. It is not a task we enjoy, but it is a task we must carry out if our civilization is to prosper. Gentlemen, are we ready? Colm O'Driscoll, may God, in his infinite wisdom, have mercy upon your soul. Whenever you are ready.
Now you know how it feels to watch somebody you love die. You ruined my life!
And I have to talk about it. Red Dead Online, they're trying to turn it into Red Dead's version of GTA Online, which obviously GTA Online is the king of online games. Red Dead is not going to touch GTA. So I'm not going to compare it to GTA, because obviously it's going to appeal to more people, Grand Theft Auto is. It's going to appeal to more people. I mean, to most people, what sounds better, buying a horse or buying a supercar, you know what I mean? Like, the two things aren't comparable. They've got the same business structure, but they don't have the same appeal. So I'm not going to compare the two. For what it is, Red Dead Online is very enjoyable and very fun. I've not experienced a lot of griefers. I had heard that griefing was a big problem in Red Dead Online. You were going to get griefed, and it's not a fun experience for new players. Now, I did a live stream of me playing Red Dead Online for the first time, and I never got griefed. I had one experience where another player was just sort of hunting me down just for the fun of it. I guess I kind of held my own. He got his kill. He left me alone. So I wouldn't really consider that griefing. I've not really had an experience like that in Red Dead Online. Other players seem to be very courteous and very sort of... I've walked past many players and they've not tried to fight me in Grand Theft Auto Online. It's not the same. You walk past someone there, they're going to pull a gun out and they're going to kill you. In Red Dead Online, I've not really had that experience much. Customization options, I actually prefer Red Dead Online, but that's because I really love that sort of Wild West motif and things like that. So that sort of thing's going to appeal to me anyway. I really do like the more simplified version of playing an online game like Red Dead Online. So, for example, in GTA, you've got all these different guns. You can buy miniguns and all sorts of camo paint and all that sort of stuff, which is fantastic. It's good. Yeah, I'll play around with that stuff if I'm on GTA Online. Red Dead Online, you're stuck in that era. You're stuck in... I think the online portion is set in, like, 1896. I think it's, like, a few years before the main story of Red Dead Online. So, you are stuck with the weapons that would have been available in 1896. And I'm fine with that. It's very simplistic. It's more... you can have more of a personalised relationship with everything you buy, I guess is the way I want to phrase that, because there's less options. So the things you do get, you have this stronger connection to these items, whether it's a gun or it's a horse or it's a piece of clothing or whatever else. Obviously, you're not going to be making millions in Red Dead Online. You're going to be making thousands, and you'll be doing that through bounty contracts or other sort of side missions available in Red Dead Online. Or so GTA Online. It's not GTA Online, it's Red Dead Online. But yeah, I really enjoyed making my own cowboy, I guess, my own outlaw, and building them up. And there is an overarching story in Red Dead Online, which I've not played through entirely yet, but I'm getting through it. And it is a very enjoyable experience. So overall, I know a lot of people have complained about Red Dead Online and said it's broken. I've not seen it being broken personally. I think it works quite well for what it is. And I'm sticking by that. So Red Dead Online is easily my favourite game of the last generation. And I've seen people say it's the best game of all time. And I'm finding myself struggling to disagree with that, to be completely honest with you. Is Red Dead 2 Online? Is Red Dead 2 my favourite game of all time? I'm going to go ahead and say yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say yeah on that. Red Dead 2 is a vast improvement on Red Dead 1, which is already one of my favourite games of all time. And when it comes to a single-player story, it's easily the best single-player story I've ever played of any game. I'm going to get that one out of the way. And everything else just complements that. And yeah, I'm going to say Red Dead Redemption 2 is my favourite game of all time. So I wanted to make this video because I did have that best games of the last generation video up on the channel, and it finished with Horizon Zero Dawn at number 1, which I did believe was my opinion for about 3 years before I finally got my hands on Red Dead 2. And I didn't want to leave that video unresponded to, with the fact that I've essentially discovered something that wipes every single game on that list back a spot. I had to make its own separate video. As you can see, I could talk about this game for hours, about everything I love about this game, but I want to keep this video a realistic length, so I'm not going to. I'm going to finish talking about it here. If you haven't played Red Dead 2, I definitely recommend you go ahead and do it so you can experience what I'm talking about. If you have played Red Dead 2, you know the sort of things I've left out. I can talk for hours about everything that's great with this game. It really ties all the Red Dead stuff, including Red Dead 1, into this nice little sort of package. Complements the story of Red Dead 1 while also delivering something fresh and innovative, even though it's set before Red Dead 1. So you know that Dutch isn't going to die because he's in Red Dead 1. You know that John Marston isn't going to die because he's in Red Dead 1. Based on that, this game should be very predictable, but it's really not. And like I said, everything comes together so very well. The voice acting is on point. The graphics are absolutely stunning and beautiful. The soundtrack is absolutely perfect. Just absolutely perfect. The right tracks in the right moments throughout the story, throughout the gameplay. It's exactly what you want. Every single character is very relatable and very likable. There isn't a single character whose death I just sat there and went, eh. Every single death hits you. Every single member of the Van der Linde gang who gets killed, it hits you. And I didn't want any of these characters to die, even though I knew which ones were probably going to die. But the story takes you in so many different directions. They've even got a Romeo and Juliet type of storyline with the Braithwaites and the Greys. These two families that are feuding in this one town that you move to. And Dutch obviously sees that as an opportunity to manipulate both sides and play them against each other. It obviously blows up in their face, but the time you spend with these characters is what makes that. Knowing that Dutch is going to manipulate these two sides, and knowing he's going to try and play them off each other, and knowing they're going to find out and chase you out of town while trying to kill you, the time you spend with these characters makes that predictable storytelling just feel so worth it, because you get to experience this story in the meantime. So there we go, that's my thoughts on Red Dead Redemption 2. Again, I just absolutely had to make this video because I didn't want to leave my opinions on this channel being the last thing that I've mentioned about Last Generation, being that Horizon Zero Dawn was my favourite game of the last generation, when we've got Red Dead 2, which I've only been experiencing since, I'd say, around October time of last year, already may be my favourite game of all time. So goes without saying, is most likely my favourite game of the last generation, is my favourite game of the last generation, and I'm going to say it's my favourite game of all time. So drop a comment in the comment section below. What do you think of Red Dead Redemption 2? I know it's not for everyone, so that's absolutely fine. If you disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. Let me know what your favourite game of all time is, your favourite game of the last generation as well. Drop a comment in the comment section below and I'll be happy to read your comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel as well. I'm a small-time YouTuber, so any and all support is greatly appreciated. Also, head on over to twitch.tv/James the Thunder. You've seen clips from my live streams on here. I've talked about it enough because I've live streamed Red Dead about 4 or 5 times at this point, and I'm probably going to live stream Red Dead 1 at some point. That's on my bucket list of things that I want to do. So head on over to twitch.tv/James the Thunder, because I do live stream multiple times a week, although I don't have a set schedule because I'd never stick to it anyway. Head on over there and support me on there. I'm a small-time Twitch streamer, so any and all support is greatly appreciated. Blah, 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 blah. You know the drill. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.
This is it. This. Well, Arthur.
Put your hands up! I said put your damn hands up!
Okay. Okay. Follow my lead. I got a plan. This is a good one. Hello, officers.
You keep them hands up and come here. Put your hands up!
Hello, Captain.
Keep your hands up and come here. Come here.
We can't do that. Your man... Those men they killed? They were good men. You're fighting nature, Captain.
Get over here!
Ask my friend here. My whole life, I tried to fight change. It's a waste. I see that now. It's a waste. You can't fight nature, Captain. You can't fight change. You can't fight gravity.